Welcome to the All the Stuff podcast, where we jam about money, clutter, and food, and the real stuff under this stuff. Join me, Lisa Carpenter, your resident food coach, along with my co-hosts, money coach Jen Turrell and clutter coach Lisa Sharp, as we help you release what's weighing you down and heal your relationship with food, money, and clutter from the inside out.
Hi, welcome to today's episode of All the Stuff. I'm Jen Turrell here with Lisa Carpenter and Lisa Sharp. And today we're going to talk about taking a moment to stop and smell the progress. So, like children growing, a lot of times when we're there and we see what's going on every single day, we don't notice quite how much growth or progress or expansion or whatever has happened until, like, you take your kids to the grandparents and they're like, oh my gosh, they've grown so much since the last time I saw them. And you look around and you're like, oh wow, I guess they have.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that today. And my example I wanted to start with was 2 years ago. I was on probably a Skype call back then. I don't think we were Zooming back then, Lisa Carpenter. This is when Lisa Carpenter was first helping me with my and she had some amazing long mermaid hair. And we talked about it and I was like, should I get extensions? What do you think I should do? So that was 2 years ago, right? And for those of you viewing the video of this, the YouTube video, I'm just going to show you what's happened to my hair in 2 years, which is, ta-da! Look at how long this hair is. I'm wearing another one of Jennifer Gaviola's poetic tees. I'm going to show you that too.
Oh,
but it's actually, my hair is so long, it's covering most of the poetry on this poetic tee. It's freaking long, isn't it?
It is. And it's beautiful.
So, and while that wasn't, like a goal I was actively working towards, because my hair just grows, everyone's hair just grows. But looking at 2 years ago, me thinking of, all of these sort of kind of expensive, difficult things to do to have long hair, and now I just have long hair. What do you know? So that's what I'm going to start with. Obviously, we want to dig deeper than just my hair. But, but let's go. Who wants to go first?
Oh my goodness. I'll go. Lisa Carpenter actually really helps me with this particular thing personally, because she and I were talking last week about our businesses, and she was saying, how do you define success? And she's like, you have a successful business. And because I was sort of over there, crying in a corner, not really, but sort of, just sort of like, oh, but I want my business to be at this place instead of just being where it is right now. And I was so much attached to, but I'm not there yet, that I wasn't appreciating how freaking far I've come in 3 years. And it's really amazing how our brains work this way. We're just always like, but I don't have that thing. And this is why it's so important to really focus on that invisible, like you said, that invisible progress that you're making, because we really are every single day. The kids are growing, our businesses are growing, our hair is growing. Emotionally, we're maturing, we're always evolving, we're always evolving. And to not really appreciate that is, I don't know. I think it's like we're missing out on some joy that's really there, because we're just focusing on what isn't instead of what is. And I definitely see this with my clients. So one of the things that I do with my people that I work with online and the people that I work with in Atlanta is I'll have them take pictures of their space. And the reason that I do that is twofold.
I'm recording.
There's reality for you.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. It's twofold. The first thing is that we don't really even sometimes see the way things really are. And by taking pictures of a space, it gives us a fresh perspective about, like things we just sort of stop seeing. And this is true with our bodies. This is true with our finances. We just sort of like have this general feeling of, ugh, this isn't working, but we don't really have a baseline. And we're really afraid to look at that baseline because we're afraid of how bad it's going to be, right? Yeah. It's like stepping on the scale, taking the measurements, looking at our, our debt or whatever, or taking, having a professional organizer come into your house. So, it's all of those things feel really intimidating, but once you actually get a true picture of where you are, the knowing of where you really are is unbelievably powerful. it's all of that avoidance that we do, because we perceive that if we look at that baseline, if we look at that problem, if we stare at it and really acknowledge it, that it's going to be so painful that it's going to bury us in some way emotionally. But the fact is that's where the seed of the power is, where we can be moving forward. So, taking pictures, getting a baseline for all of that, and then also to have something to look back at. And then you can say like, holy crap, I can't believe I just did that. Right? Like we're doing this in our businesses. Our hair is now, 6 inches longer. I paid off a credit card. I like my living room. I'm not embarrassed to have people, drop by my house. Like all of these things, we're always improving, but we don't always see it. And a lot of the time, a lot of the work that we do feels like, oh, I'm just doing that thing again. It's always the undoing, right? People are like, oh, why even bother, starting a new walking program because I keep eating Doritos? Why should I bother cleaning up the living room and decluttering it because my family just throws stuff all over the place? Is paying off this debt really going to make me feel any different if I put $500 in savings, am I going to just turn around and spend it? But the fact is that we are always moving forward, even when we feel like we're sliding backward. And that's why having those baselines are so helpful. Having the victory journal we talked about in one of the earlier episodes, having a place to park that progress is really, really powerful, especially when you're having those days when you're just like, nothing is working. Then you have a place to go back and look at it and be like, oh, yeah, actually, I'm kind of kicking ass. Oh,
I rock.
I know. I love that. So, so much goodness in this episode. And even though I preach on it, it's still something that I'm always having to learn. So I did a live stream about success and kind of my journey with that. And we'll put a link to it in the show notes if somebody wants to check it out. And, reflecting on my own journey and with clients, we're going along, we're doing our thing, right? Every day we're making progress. We may not be paying attention to it, but what happens is people look up and they see how far they have to go still, and they're not there yet. And that's when we screw ourselves, right? Because we're looking ahead instead of being present with where we are and kind of looking over our shoulder and saying, but look how far I've come. So, what have I been online for now? 2.5 years, my business has been online. It was, bricks and mortar prior to that. In that time, I've built out, I moved my entire EAT program online. I've built out my feelings and food program. I've built out a 10-day challenge, which is now a paid program. I've got all these different things that I've done, yet I'm like, oh, but I'm not there yet. So the thing that I was reflecting on the other day, and I was doing a Facebook post in regards to this, was that, this time last year, I was in the middle of this epic challenge, right? My 10 Days of You challenge, which is now, like I said, a paid program. And over 3,200 women signed up for it. I was like, it was chaos. It was like great and amazing chaos. And I was going up to this event called Shine Live, which I'm actually leaving for this afternoon. And in the middle of this event, I had to leave because my launch was not going well. And, I felt like my business was falling apart. I'd invested all this money and nothing was going the right way. Long story short, it all worked out in the end, and I had to lick my wounds afterwards and make peace. And here we are a year later. And just this week, I was named in the top 50 of the best online weight loss programs. Right? But this time last year, I was like, why isn't anybody working with me? Which is not the truth. People were working with me. My program has been very, very successful. It was all like my frame of reference. So,
and not just top 50. Out of the top 50, you were like in the top
I was
10,
placed in
right?
I was placed in the top 10. So there's
fantastic. Let's celebrate.
There's JJ Virgin and Chris Powell and Jillian Michaels and me.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
It was just so that was pretty cool, and that really made me reflect on. So much has changed in a year, and there was so much learning and growth that came out of that kind of face down moment. And I'm always having to reevaluate because I tend to be an overachiever. And what happens with overachievers is we set this high bar, we get close to the bar, and instead of letting ourselves meet it, giving ourselves a high five, celebrating, we're like, I'm just going to adjust the bar up
Right.
I could do more, right? So
wasn't that hard.
Right. Exactly. So we never actually let ourselves get there at all. So it's like, if you don't actually stop and pause and reflect on how far you've come, whether it's just, I've got women who are working with me that now eat, they know what a protein is and they're eating protein regularly. Where when they started with me, they were lucky if they got in a protein once a day. Mm-hmm. They're eating more vegetables, whatever it is. All of those things count towards you creating greater success for yourself. Jen was laughing about her hair and my hair. If you go back, if you do a Google search of me, by all means, my hair was like an inch short at one point in time. So what Jen grew in a year, this is like a decade worth of growth, right? Like my hair just doesn't grow, which is why I go in and get extensions in just to make it fun. But it is like so much has changed. Even, in the previous episode we were talking about, like thinking that my husband is coming up on 5 years of recovery. Like my life completely changed 5 years ago. And it seems like yesterday, but it was 5 years and so much has changed in my business and my personal life. So you have to pause. You have to be here now. You have to look at how far you've come. Don't let where you want to be discourage you, but don't let it diminish what you've already accomplished. Like if you can't celebrate where you are today and what you've accomplished today, like I said, you'll never actually get there. You'll never let yourself have that success. Right. Mm-hmm. So even my banking stuff is so different now from when I met you, Jen, right? Like I wouldn't look, I wasn't logging, nothing was automated. So although, my debt hasn't been paid down, when I start to get discouraged, I sit back and I literally do an inventory, right, of everything that I am doing now. When I read, because I still read, different money books, because I'm very conscious of creating new patterns for myself. I'll read them and I'm like, oh, I'm doing that. Oh, I'm doing that. Oh, I'm doing that. It's not like, oh my God, I have all this stuff to do. It's like, I'm already doing 5 out of the 10 points. Yeah. So it's like, now I get to take the next step. So just to appreciate that, like I don't have this wash of shame anymore in regards to money. That is such a huge leap forward. So I love this topic. I'm so glad that we're talking about this. Good call, Miss Turrell.
Well, and I was thinking too, before we started the episode, some of the women that I talk to, if you look at debt, say, since I'll look at debt with money, sometimes people can look at it and feel like they really haven't made progress. And I know we've talked about this in other episodes of feeling like, oh, I'm back at the same point, I'm starting over. But the thing is, if you've run some debt back up after paying some of it off a year ago, what's happened in the meantime of that year? Like you've been paying your mortgage every month, probably. So you might be building up equity there. You've probably been paying off your car all that time. You have been paying your taxes. Maybe you've been contributing to some kind of retirement fund. There are ways in which even if you don't feel like you've made quite as much progress as you want in one area, your net worth may be going up. Or if it's not, maybe you've been investing in your own business, say, which is now starting to reap those rewards more and more. So like your launch that's coming up this year of EAT is going to be very different from that launch you did last year during Shine Live. Hopefully you've put a little space maybe between this event and the launch this time. There are things that we learn, like
absolutely.
At an event where I paid a lot of money to be there when I'm totally mentally absent because of my launch over here, like we learn all kinds of things all the time. And so hopefully this year you can really enjoy Shine Live while you're there.
I'm going to.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
my plan is to be fully present. I don't really know what's going to happen when I'm there. And even appreciating the fact that, last year when I went, there was some, insecurities. Like you walk into this room with all these amazing women doing amazing things. And there was part of me that was like, I'm so glad I have to go back and stay in my hotel room, because I wasn't quite ready to dance with my gremlins of like, I belong in this room too and I have something to contribute. Whereas this year I'm really walking in with I am one of the amazing women in this room and I get to shine my light, and I could be sitting next to 2 other people that do exactly the same thing as me. Yet this time it doesn't bother me. Like they can shine their lights, I can shine my light, and everybody gets help. Because nobody can be me. So even the emotional progress I've made in terms of accepting myself is totally different for me going into this event, right? Like Although I'm still wrestling with the wardrobe because I've got the dress up Lisa wardrobe and then I've got the jeans and t-shirt. And I'm like, I'm not sure which of me is going to show up. Is it going to be the dress up with the extensions in, or is it going to be the screw this, I'm wearing my boots and my t-shirt and my jeans, Lisa? Because I have both sides of me there, which is kind of a little bit crazy to talk about, a little bit off topic, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like just acknowledging that that's coming with me, that loopy part of me too. So yeah, it'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, you get to decide when you show up how you feel, I guess. If you bring it all.
I've brought it all, which is probably a topic for Lisa Sharp. I have a bag. I have a separate bag for my shoes. I've got like 7 pairs of shoes. I'm there for 3 days. Like, it's ridiculous because I can't make a decision about what to wear. So I'm sure you have something to say about that. Maybe it's another topic, but
yeah, no,
the unmade decision. Lisa Sharp, this is one of my favorite things you talk about, how clutter is unmade decisions. I think you should go on that. Like, you can't make the decision. That's when you leave things out, right? Like,
yeah, actually, no. I'm going to surprise everybody and just say I really suck at packing.
Packing.
Suck at packing. I hate packing. And the funny thing is, like, I have a very, very minimalist wardrobe. I don't own a bunch of stuff. I have kind of a uniform that I wear, and I still overpack. And I
am the expert packer then, because I lived out of a backpack for over a year traveling around the world.
Then you should lead that as a topic because I can't.
So you know what I did? Okay, so I had a dress, I had a skirt, I had a pair of long jeans, I had a pair of shorts. I am sure I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, even though it's buzzing me. Shh. Okay. And I had a number of t-shirts, and we were touring, so I would pick up band t-shirts along the way and sometimes discard other things. And I had one swimsuit, which I had to replace at one point because we were in Australia, and you know when you sit on the beach in a swimsuit or on rocky beaches, even with a towel, sometimes you wear out the butt of your swimsuit. Yeah. So, but yeah, the amazing thing was it simplified things so much because once I did wear things over too, I did not always stay somewhere with a washing machine. Sometimes we got in so late at night after playing a show and had to leave the next morning that there really wasn't time to wash things that much. I did bring a lot of underwear and socks, because I figured the other things I could air out if I couldn't clean. This is another topic of like cleanliness when you're traveling all the time.
So this is where I'll be looking for progress in my next trip. Because I will be getting on a plane, so there will not be a separate bag of shoes.
Yeah. You know, and I didn't bring any extra bag of shoes. I wore a pair of shoes. I wore them out at one point, and I bought a new pair of shoes. But I was also in the indie rock world, indie pop world, which is pretty, a pair of Chucks is totally fine at any event. I could go to, even like we did some festivals where we got paid like $3,000 for 20 minutes of music. I still wore a jean skirt and some Chucks. Yeah, nobody cared. If you are going on stage and speaking, though, that's a whole different, and also you're kind of in a different presentation world. This was more of like college, after college, backpacking around the world kind of thing. But it did teach me a lot about what I really valued and what I needed with me all the time during that period of time. Yeah.
And Lisa, I would say that you should bring what makes you happy.
Yeah.
It all makes me happy, Lisa.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So just be the person who has a lot of stuff.
Own it.
I love it.
Own it.
That's the thing, right?
Have fun with it.
I am that person that, and this is one of the things, talking about how far we've come, this used to really bother me that I have this side and I have this side. And now I just accept, like, I am the girl that loves to wear, like, get dressed up and have the stilettos. And, Lisa Sharp was with me at my last retreat in Colorado, and I brought all this like fancy pants, long skirt stilettos. And I ended up wearing jeans and a t-shirt for all my photos because that's just kind of what called to me in the moment.
Yeah.
That's not even what I planned to wear in the photos. Like I'd actually gone out and bought myself a new top and all that kind of stuff. And that is part of me. I like to be dressed up, and I like to wear my jeans and my t-shirts and my sneakers as well. So accepting all the parts of me that is something that I've really progressed in my life.
There's your invisible progress right there.
Right? That's huge for me, not being so Judgerson, right?
McJudgerson, absolutely. Yeah, just celebrating who you are in all of your facets. My daughter is 10, and she said she's like really heavily into American Girl stuff. So she's always reading books, and they have all this stuff about, you know, like who you are, like, which is kind of hilarious. That's a whole other topic about stuff that girls are marketed to and what boys are marketed to. Anyway, she came to me yesterday and she said, you know, I'm afraid that I'm too loud, I'm too goofy at school. And so I'm more serious this year because I need to be, you know, like it's not appropriate for me to be silly at school. And I said, yeah, have you met me? Because I mean, like both my husband and I are extremely goofy people, really, really goofy people. So I'm like, yeah, that's normal. And she's just like, but I just don't feel like I'm being my authentic self.
Oh my Lord.
Right?
Oh my Lord.
Is this coming from the American Girl stuff, or is some of it from school?
Oh my Lord.
No, I think it was like something she'd read in a book. But that was a perfect, you know, like inlet to this conversation about like your authentic self is just you. There's no, you are all of those things. You are goofy. You are serious. You are, you know, you are loud. You are quiet. You are controlling. You are no. That's nice. But you know, like there is no differentiation, and I think as we get older, especially those of us in our 40s, you know, are kind of realizing that all of those roles that we have put ourselves in, that our families have put ourselves in, you know, all the stuff that happens in life that molds us. As we get older, we can start to look at that from a fresh vantage point, like, oh, that doesn't fit.
It is just part of me.
Yeah, it is just part of me. So
you know,
the silent or the you know progress that's actually happening all the time is just being more comfortable in our own skin.
You know, I think that where it comes from around the dressing up for me that I have to check in is because in the past, for me, when I would get totally dressed up, you know, hair, nails, all that kind of stuff, there was such an element of perfectionism for me. And a hiding behind it all. So making peace with it now that it's not about me looking perfect or being perfect. I actually really just like to dress up. Right? Whereas before there was that other layer of I just have to like up my game. I have to be that person. I have to be super professional. Right. So that's why it's kind of, you know, that's, you know, more progress for me in regards to just checking in and saying I can wear the dress or I can wear the shoes. It's like, what's driving though to do one or the other? Do I just want to dress up for the sake of dressing up, or am I feeling insecure that I'm walking into this room with all these women, so I feel like I gotta like raise my game?
Up my game, absolutely.
So that's the checking in for me.
Yeah, I love it.
How tall are you, Lisa Carpenter?
I am 5'1".
She's this big.
I'm like,
that's big.
Well, and I when you were talking about kind of upping your game around all these other women, because I know we had a little discussion earlier about shoe sizes and stuff. So I was just curious how tall you were.
My shoes.
Is that something for you too? For upping the game literally with the
literally.
Yeah. So when I wear high heels, I wear like high heels. So if you're watching on YouTube, these are like, I don't know, what are those? 2, 3?
Crazy.
With a platform.
Yeah.
And they're super fun.
They're probably 3-inch.
And when
I struggle with. I mean, I'm 5'7", so I don't feel. I mean, I'm not the tallest woman in the room all the time, but I don't feel the need to do a lot of height enhancement. But I do feel a lot of insecurity around my ankle strength and being able to walk, much less like dance or anything.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh.
I like my knees a whole lot, and my knees will not do stilettos. That ain't
I've had 2 knee surgeries. One was just a couple years ago, and I'm pretty much on flats these days because of leg strength. But then, you know, again, looking at you I've seen pictures of you in heels where I can see all the muscles of your body because you used to do the performance stuff. And I'm like, my muscles have never been quite up to all of that.
So in all fairness, like I used to have to spend a good 30 minutes in a studio practicing walking in heels. Because if you're going to go up on stage in heels and a bathing suit, I know, which sounds so crazy, but in heels and a bathing suit, because it's normal. This is what we do when we compete. You want to not look like an ass walking in heels in a bathing suit. You want to look like they were attached to your feet from birth.
Right.
And
of course, it's completely normal to do this. Doesn't everyone?
So, I have to say, I've never put on heels in a bathing suit, but I have put on heels in a dress, which, you know, wiping out from heels in anything is not ideal. So,
anyways.
Yeah. Anyways,
topic.
Maybe that's progress I need to make at some point, is to learn how to walk in heels. But then again, I'm pretty comfortable with my flats. So
I think the progress is just owning you, owning the things about you that you know to be true, and letting go of the rest or the shoulds. I should do this. I should wear this. I should, you know, I think that that's where, as we get older, where we can really appreciate progress is letting go of all the garbage that isn't us, let it all fall away, soak into who we really are, embrace all the quirks, like, and laugh at ourselves. Like, I laugh at so much stuff with myself, whereas before it was huge judgment. So over 40 rocks.
Yeah, over 40 rocks, I gotta say.
Yeah.
If you're not quite there, listener, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
So to wrap this up, I wanted to bring it back for 1 second to your 10-year-old daughter, Lisa, and the authenticity idea. For a second, I kind of cringed at that because I was like, oh, this word authentic is getting so overused that it's filtering down to our children. But at the same time, I couldn't help thinking, you know, when I was 10, the idea of that there was a me authentic that was not an amalgamation of fashion and Barbie. Well, I wasn't allowed to have Barbies. My mom was a hippie who was very anti-Barbie as a feminist. But you know what I mean? Like pop culture reference and what we're taught at school and what other people are saying. The idea that there is something that's us separate from all that, I don't know that occurred to me for quite a long time. I mean, I felt like, oh, you know, these older people, these writers, these college people go and find themselves. And I always kind of thought that was a weird thing to do. Like, you're finding, like, where did you go? Why do you have to go to Europe to find yourself? Like, how did you end up in Europe anyway?
The coffee is better.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting that she is trying to, that she has the idea, at least, even if it came from one of those places, like I just talked about pop culture references, the idea that there's something that's just her beneath all of what we put on top of ourselves as we grow up.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, I think I really do think it's great. It just sort of made me laugh because we're all sort of in this self-help, self-actualization sort of world. And there's my 10-year-old talking about her authenticity. I was like, what? Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's...
You know, I think that would be a really great topic for us to dive into. Add that to the Google Sheet, Lisa.
Okay.
Yes, listeners, we have a Google Sheet so we can keep track of the things that we want to jam about. Talking about authentic self, because I think that there's so much more we could dive into, because a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? What does that even mean?
And do I get to go to Europe to go figure it out?
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind going to Europe.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that either.
That's my midlife crisis. You know, we're in our 40s now. Considering what the standard lifespan has been, it's getting longer, but we're kind of around midlife now. So maybe we get to go maybe we should all go to Europe together.
God bless.
And find ourselves.
Let's go do that. I don't know myself at all. I need to go to Europe to find myself. Yeah. Okay. Let me just interject one thing before we wrap up here. So one of the things we talked about was, you know, like how, like paying attention to the progress that we're making in our lives, right? So if you want a place to come celebrate, please come over to our Facebook group for the podcast, because this is an amazing group of women that's growing by leaps and bounds every single day. And it's a place where you can go park this, you know, because it's a little uncomfortable, especially if you've never done it before. If you're not going to be like saying to your husband, I'm so proud of myself. I'm celebrating the fact that I don't even know.
Whatever. Grew my hair.
I grew my hair. And he's going to be like, that's great. Okay. Well, you know what I'm saying? So you need like a place to come, you know, like share that. And like, there's nothing too small. I balanced my checkbook today. I followed my morning routine. I drank all of my water. I went for a walk. It doesn't really matter. It's so great to be in a community of women who just get it. And nobody's judging you or thinking that you're showing off or you're doing, you know, like you're, I don't know, like, because celebrating yourself is like a bad thing for some reason, but it's not, it's a really great thing. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. the more you will appreciate how much you do every single day to improve yourself, to improve your life, and how much you are evolving. So we'll put the link to the Facebook group in the show notes below.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe that learning the art of giving yourself high fives and celebrating yourself is it's foundational for your self-worth.
Yeah.
Like right? We are responsible for being our best cheerleaders, not waiting for other people to tell us that we're doing awesome stuff. We have to learn how to tell ourselves, and that's so, so important. So, but like Lisa said, learning to do that can feel incredibly uncomfortable if you've never done it before. So yeah, I hope you do hop over to the Facebook group, because it certainly is fun in there.
Yep. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast if you're listening, and subscribe and comment if you are watching this on YouTube. And thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.